Shudder is pretty much the premier streaming service for horror fans. So of course I want to talk about 5 underrated horror films that are streaming on Shudder right now. This is streaming in the United States, so just be aware of that as of August 2nd. And these 5 films are in no particular order except for the first film. And that is a film that inspired this list. It's a film that a lot of people don't talk about. In fact, I've never heard really anyone talk about it. And I think it definitely deserves some love, so stick around for that one. But kicking things off with number 5, which is the 2022 film Deadstream. Now this one was a Shudder original film that was pretty high on my rankings of last year's horror films. This is a horror comedy about a guy who's spending the night in like a haunted house, and he's streaming it as like a challenge. He's trying to win back his audience after he did some things, or he messed some things up, and he kind of got backlash from his fans. He's trying to win them back by, staying in this place as a challenge. And this is a really interesting and fun horror film that when it came out, I definitely saw some people talking about it for sure. And I'm sure some people have heard about it. Obviously, if you're watching this, maybe you've heard about it, but I don't really see anyone talk about it. It kind of came out 2022. Some people mentioned it and then it disappeared. And then no one was talking about, hey, this is a good film. This is a good horror comedy, but it's also a really good version of this type of film, to which we've had a few. We've got films like Host that take that like zoom element, but do it more like intense and horror film. And then you have films like Spree, which are like the Uber driver gone mad with the GoPros. That's also a really entertaining and fun little horror comedy film. But I think this one takes that aspect of like streaming what you're doing and making it into like a really fun horror comedy. There's some cool, creepy like jump scares in here, some really cool elements. Great performance from the lead character, who has a lot on his shoulders in this. Some really funny points also. And it doesn't feel like the comedy is like really forced or coming out of nowhere. The main character is kind of like a funny guy right out the gate. So when the laughs start hitting in these like uncomfortable situations where he's kind of scared and it's kind of intense, but he makes like a joke, it doesn't feel like super awkward or out of place. It feels very fitting with his character. So creepy moments here and there. Definitely some cool ideas and storylines, cool setting, and some good laughs. If you haven't seen Deadstream, you should check it out. It's on Shudder right now in the United States. Number 4, funny enough, was also on pretty high on my list of 2022 films, and that is Watcher, starring Micah Monroe. I always not exactly sure how you say her name, but Watcher was another one of those that I checked out because my friend told me to watch it, and I was blown away by it. I really loved Watcher. If I'm not mistaken, I think it might be my number 1 horror film of 2022. Follow me on Letterboxd and go check out my list. I have a ranking of this year and a ranking of last year and lots of other years up. And the description, or the link is in the description. So go follow me on there if you're curious to see my entire rankings of non-horror films also. I'm pretty sure it's number 1 on there. I really enjoyed it. I loved the element of being stalked and then sort of turning that on its head, of thinking that maybe we've got this like self-absorbed character. And this isn't giving too much away about the plot, but it definitely like does this element where you're not exactly sure if she's right about things or if she's wrong. And you kind of root for her and then you kind of don't, because her character is kind of unlikable. I think that Micah Monroe is great in Watcher. This is probably my favorite performance from her personally. And some really, really cool scenes in this film with some really cool tension built up. One scene in the supermarket in particular, I really enjoyed what they did there. Super intense, super cool. I love the element of the boyfriend in here. Although, of course, I hate his character. I loved what they did with it in the film. The ending also is just a knockout, totally delivers. If you, for some reason, haven't seen Watcher, because again, it's another one of those that like, I was told about it, didn't hear anything about it. Like I didn't see it advertised. Someone just told me to watch it, and that's how I saw it. I've talked to people who enjoyed it, but I don't really see a lot of people talking about it. And this film deserves some serious love, So go check out Watcher on Shudder if you haven't seen it. All right, number 3 is kind of a hot take maybe, but in my opinion, this is Ty West's best film, and that is Innkeepers from 2011. Now, this is a film that is just criminally underrated in my opinion. And when I saw Innkeepers, this was back when I used to love Ty West and nobody knew who he was. Now I'm happy to say, ex-Pearl Maxine, whether you like those or not, people are starting to know his name, so I'm happy for the guy. But in my opinion, this is his best film. I love this movie. I thought that this was one of the creepiest films I had seen at the time when I saw it. I think I actually have a review of Innkeepers on this channel, but like way, way back from 2011 or 2012 or something when I first watched it. This is about an inn or a hotel that's shutting down and they have like a couple guests left. So they've got a skeleton crew, just 2 people basically manning the desk. And one of those people is this kind of like washed out, burnt out guy who's trying to get this like TV series type streaming series thing off the ground, investigating haunted places. And they've got like, there's all this like history and stories about the inn that they know about and they've heard about. So throughout their time there, they've been kind of investigating, and he convinces the other girl who is working with him that night to go on like a ghost hunt and investigate these things. And there's some really cool cinematography in here. I love some of the way that some of this is shot. I love the element in the beginning when it's kind of like these 2 characters are having fun because like there's like 3 guests in the hotel or whatever. And they even know a couple of them because they've been there for like a while. So there's not a lot to do. So they're kind of killing time, having fun. And then it kind of like slowly starts to build up this tension as we get these like story elements that are sort of coming to fruition that they've talked about. And we're getting little pieces here and there from the characters and the stories and these settings. Really cool, like basement settings. Again, some great shots and great cinematography here and there. I think there's some great practical effects here and some sort of like ghost designs that, in my opinion, stuck with me in my mind for years. I think it's some of the best like ghost creature design in this type of horror film that paralleled to like The Conjuring. Conjuring came after, of course, but the designs of the characters or the creatures in there is top notch, and I think Innkeepers does it almost just as well, if not better, in some extent. Some really creepy ghosts in this film. Got an absolutely incredible setting here with this inn that's shutting down. Some great performances, fantastic direction from Ty West. There are some pieces in here that don't quite come together, but honestly, there's like laughs in here. Great suspense, great tension, cool little mystery story, and just again a great setting of this like shutting down inn, which is always something that intrigues me in these types of films. If you haven't seen Innkeepers, and especially if you're a fan of Ty West, maybe his more modern films or more recent films, check out Innkeepers. It's just like criminally underrated and deserves so much more love. Number 2 on this list is another interesting one because I had never heard of this movie and I probably wouldn't have watched it, honestly, if my friend hadn't come to work and said, hey, check out this film that I watched. It's really cool and I think it's up your alley. So I went home and watched a movie called Hunter x Hunter, having no idea like what genre it fits into, what direction it was going to go, or what it was about. And that's the best way to watch this. It is, of course, in this list of underrated horror films. It's a horror film, but like in the loose sense for sure. There's some horrifying elements, absolutely, but it's more of like a drama thriller, especially for like 90% of the film. So go in just like expecting that. Understand there is like more drama and like thriller elements to like most of the film. And then it definitely gets into some horror elements. Don't read the synopsis though. Honestly, don't watch the trailer. It goes in places that you would not expect it to go in. And especially that title, Hunter x Hunter, when you don't really know like what it means, watch the movie and then think about it a little more. And this movie just like totally blew me away. Completely caught me off guard. Great, super solid performances here. Really cool setting in the forest. Again, I'm not going to give too much away about the plot. I don't want to really say too much because the less you know, the better. But it is a lot of forest stuff, a lot of wilderness, like cinematography and things that are going on, done really well. There's a really cool dark ending or dark storyline that's going on here. And that's all I'm going to say. That's all I want to say. Just go check this out. Honestly, I really think blind is the best way. I know a lot of people want to know more about films before they go watch them, but check it out. It's called Hunter x Hunter. It's on Shudder. The less you know, the better off you are. And coming at number 1 on this list is the film that inspired this list. And this is a movie from the director, one of the 2 directors from Rec and Rec 2. And so when I first saw this back in 2011 or maybe 2012, it had such an impact on me that like I'll just think about it every once in a while for like a decade and 3 years or however long it's been, 13 years or so. Every once in a while, it'll pop into my brain, and I don't know. I had only seen it one time, but like over the years, it'll just like there's like nothing quite like it that I've seen, and it just goes into some really dark and interesting places. The film I'm talking about is the foreign film Sleep Tight from 2011. Now, this is a Spanish film, and as I mentioned, it's from one of the 2 directors of Rec and Rec 2. So if you are a fan of those films, if you know those films, if you don't know those, check those out. Add those to your watch list. But of course, when this came out, I was like following that director, and his name is Wame Balaguero. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but I was like, I gotta watch this guy. I love Rec and Rec 2. And so when Sleep Tight came out, I was like, I have to check this out. And I wasn't expecting it because it's a little more of like a drama. And there's this story element that like, what's going on. It could have been posed as like a twist, but it's not. In fact, actually, like, I don't want to give too much away, but there's like a villain who's kind of our main character. And so there's this really interesting element where you're following him through the film, and what he's doing through the film, but there's this really just cool aspect of like this girl that he's doing these things to, and I'm trying to be super vague, but there's this point at the end of the film that really hits home that I want to talk about. I wish I could, but I'm not going to. But there's this, once you get to the end of the film, just think about it for a little bit. And it's not exactly just about the things that happen in the film, but there's this mental element in there that it kind of poses this question of, how positive can you be? How much do you let negative things in your life affect you? Or on the contrary, if you're this other character and you're doing all this stuff to a person, but it's still not like working in the way that you want to, are you allowing your own mental parts or like choices, I guess, not make you happy? I know this is super vague and kind of confusing, but I'm trying to give so little away. But there's this like overarching question of like, what kind of makes you happy? And your choices, things can happen to you in life, but it's really your choices and your decision to be content in life that kind of gets you there. You can choose to be content no matter what happens to you. And so I just want to say that, throw that out there. Watch the movie, and I've never seen a horror thriller drama that does something quite like this. Super unique film. You're gonna have to watch subtitles. Do not just watch it with like the voiceover or whatever you call that. I don't know why I can't remember what that's called at this moment, but read subtitles, watch this film, and honestly, this is super unique film. Highly recommend, and I had to make this list based around it because it's just like I said, I've never seen anyone talk about this. I've never seen it on anybody's list. I've never seen like it even mentioned on like recommended if you like this film lists or anything. Nobody talks about this. So Sleep Tight from 2011. If you have never seen this, which I would bank on the fact that you haven't seen it, I urge you to give this one a try. As I said, remember it's like a horror mystery drama. It's slow, okay? This is more of a mental film. Just keep that in mind. But go in, don't expect anything like there's no possessions or murders or slasher film elements, nothing like that. And it's a little bit slow burn, but this is a solid, dark, and kind of depressing film that I highly recommend you checking out. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know in the comments which one you're going to check out if you haven't seen it, or which one's your favorite if you have. And what is your most underrated film on Shudder right now? Like, which one do you think deserves more love than it's getting? Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate you.
I'm running scared, I'm a big bad wolf. I never see the silver lining, only see the gold. I don't speak in caps, dog, everything bold. And I put that on myself cause it's a life that I done chose. I said come through, you can see me on the west side. Now it's funny how they walking